Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
All right, you're welcome to the AM show again, and we're going on to the conversations having to do with the floods that have occurred in parts of the country. Let's hear from Tamale, where they experienced their floods yesterday. Kumasi also did, but let's start with Tamale.
This is my first time. I didn't see some before on this road. So I crossed first bridge, that was the second bridge. So I reached the middle and I saw that the rain to want to push me inside the hole. So I returned back that I should come back and come and wait here. So after the rain, the erosion go down, I said that I'll continue my journey.
How long have you been waiting here?
More than 1 hour, getting to 2 hours. Getting to 2 hours.
Where were you heading to?
The last bridge, some tall buildings over there. So this is my second time. So the moment I read the moment I reach the middle, I want to force and cross. And I had the rain to push me my motor. So I decided if I didn't turn my back, me plus my motor will go off.
We're compelled to invite fire service together with NAGO to come and help us save lives. And indeed, they have done it. We were able to rescue. They swam up to that house and rescue all those people.
How many people did they rescue?
6 people and about 4 children.
It has not been easy. It has not been easy. Because as of today, none of us can go to Tamale. Any attempt, you may even lose your life. As you can see, evidence it has been divided into 3 sessions. The first session is the one at Taha, the second one is at Buwile, and the third one is at Fu. In fact, I think the incumbent MP house has been flooded. Mutaoki, former MP for Damangu, the house has been flooded. And so many houses, we can talk of thousands of houses, has been got stranded.
People have locked up the other side and the other side again. A lot of people have locked up. So what we need is that the government should come out and make sure any engineer who supervises work and the work doesn't go proper, they should query him. Other than that, Ghana will never default.
Sorry.
Right, so those were some visuals coming in from Tamale yesterday after the downpour and the resultant floods. We have on the line Yusuf Danjuma, who's the Tamale Metropolitan Director of the National Disaster Management Organization. Good morning to you, Mr. Danjuma. Now, what's the situation in Tamale this morning?
morning to your viewers out there. For now, the situation in Tamale is calm. We had a 3-hour torrential rain in Tamale yesterday. Most of the areas got flooded. We went around with the regional minister, the regional police command, and the Metro Police Command and the Ghana Fire Service to assess the situation on the ground, to see how we'll be able to put up measures to be able to support people who were affected.
What's the extent of flooding?
Yeah, it was terrible. We had the flood-prone areas, but unfortunately, yesterday, most of the areas that got flooded was as a result of the certain constructions that have been going on in some areas and which have not been completed. Some drainages that were under construction and certain communities that had not been completed, which led to the flooding of some of the areas. But as we speak, the situation is calm. We are assessing the situation. We'll submit our report to regional for onward resolution to those issues, and most especially to the areas that got flooded.
One of the victims of the floods who was speaking to JoyNews indicated that this is the first time he's experiencing anything like that. Would you say same?
Yeah. Most of the area. That's why I indicated that we have flood-prone areas under the Tamale metropolis, but most of the areas that got flooded have certain peculiar situations. And I indicated that some of the areas that drainages have been under construction. That is how come some of the areas got flooded. But most of the flood-prone areas also got affected. And we are still assessing the situation. We have about 7 communities that were severely affected.
Is it just, are these just communities in Tamale, or it's the impact is beyond Tamale? Yeah,
these are communities under Tamale metropolis. Normally, we have 2 constituencies under Tamale Metro, which is Tamale South and Central. And we have 3 sub-metros under the Tamale Metro NADMO Directorate. So I haven't assessed the situation. Tamale South, most communities affected, and Tamale Central too, the same thing happened.
Do you know if we have any casualties?
Not yet. Not yet. Since yesterday, we're on the ground. We've assessed the situation. We haven't had any casualty yet, but people have been badly affected. The people have their homes submerged underwater, filling stations, and other institutions got submerged. So we are assessing the situation. We'll submit a thorough report on that and communicated it as well.
All right, Mr. Danjuma, I want you to hold on for me. We'll come to you in a bit for you to tell us the plans you have for people who may have been displaced and how you can support them. But we also have joining us Joshua Asamoah, who's with the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Good morning to you, Mr. Asamoah. Can you tell us what's happening as far as these rains and the resultant floods are concerned?
All right, good morning, and let me wish everyone listening to us a very good morning too. So basically, the northern portions are still in their rainy season, and this is the peak of the rainy season in the northern portions of the country. Before the rains will come to the south for us to get our mild rainy season, the north will continue to experience this rainfall. So yesterday was a rainstorm that entered the eastern portions of the northern sector around 5 a.m. So Yendi and its environs were experiencing rainfall in the early hours of the morning before it drifted to the west, affected Tamale and areas closer. But what makes Tamale's case peculiar is that the storm stagnated over that area for a very long time before it drifted to the upper west and Savannah regions. So the heavy rains they had was because of the stagnation of the storm, which affected the northern portions of the country over Tamale and more areas in the northern region before it went to the Savannah and upper west regions. So it's conditions that they will be experiencing because they are still in the rainy season over the northern portions. So it's not really an odd situation, but I think just like the man on the ground said, there are some factors that are local and activities by man, which will cause some of these flooding events to occur. But the rainfall that occurred was not really out of the ordinary.
Now, before the northern region of Tamale had its rain yesterday, we've had some rain as well in the upper west region, where we saw some roads and all that damaged. Would you say it still has to do with the rainy season, because the rains were quite heavy?
Yes, it still has to do with the rainy season. The rainy season, Northern Ghana has one rainy season. So it starts somewhere in June, July, there about, and then goes all the way to September before it subsides, and then they enter into the dry season. But for us in the south, we get 2 rainy seasons. The major one will come in April, May, June, and then we'll get a break around July, August, before we enter into the minor rainy season in September, October, and November. So before we will enter into a minor rainy season, the north will continue to be experiencing some of these rains. And then the upper west rains came in August, which is still the peak of the rainfall season in the northern sector. So it's still the rains they are getting because they are in their peak rainfall season. It's nothing really
no, but we always don't record this kind of rainfall and the kind of destruction we're seeing, do we?
Well, yeah, basically we don't. I think the magnitude is higher, but we still do experience some of these flooding events around this time. So just that we've had a higher magnitude around this time, because we've seen a lot of systems developing towards the northern portions of the continent. So around Burkina Faso, Mali areas, we've seen a whole lot of systems and rainstorms tracking over these areas. And because the north is closer to Burkina Faso, some of these activities also tend to affect areas in the northern parts of the country. So the rains have been a bit higher this year for the northern portions of the country, which is why we are recording frequent flooding events in the northern portions of the country.
You're indicating that the region can't expect some more rain. That means that Tamale should brace itself for maybe another storm. How soon can they expect the next downpour?
It's very likely we'll get another rainstorm this week. Hopefully between Wednesday and Thursday, it's likely we'll have another rainstorm.
All right, unfortunately, we seem to have lost Mr. Asamoah from the Ghana Meteorological Agency. But I want to go back to Mr. Danjuma. If you're still on the line, Mr. Danjuma, I'm sure you heard what Mr. Asamoah had to say from the Ghana Meteo. And he's saying that you should expect some more rain later this week. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, we have been receiving the update from them, and we embark on the sensitization on daily basis. Our field officers have been engaging the various communities, and we hope that people will comply with the education that is being put forward.
What is it that you're telling them?
Oh, we have been educated. We are telling them that for now the rains will continue to come. And those particular areas that people have been normally flood-prone areas, we tell them what they are supposed to do by making sure that people stay where they are when it's raining, and the team will be on the ground to make sure that people's lives will not be lost. And those areas that constructions are still going, drainages are being constructed, and certain areas that still need more drainages, we are still talking to them. We are working with partnering with other agencies. Yesterday, for instance, Fire Service was there to prevent what we saw last in the June 3rd disaster when the filling station got submerged. MPA, they were there, and EPA. Well, for them to continue to sensitize the people as to how we'll be able to rescue ourselves before even the state agencies will come in.
When we spoke with Mr. Asamoah, he indicated that you probably could be getting some more rain as soon as tomorrow, Wednesday. Now, you've already had some downpour in the flood-prone areas have been flooded. I'm sure the ground is going to be saturated, and then you're going to have another rain. Would it require that you probably would have to move away, evacuate people from many of these areas, and even to some areas that typically wouldn't get flooded?
Yeah, technically we are looking at those by evacuating people. We are looking at all those options are being explored. Looking at how Tamale is situated, you look at especially the Tamale South constituency, that is a flood-prone area. We look at other options available. There are school blocks, there are mosques, and so on, where people should always learn to comply when we give them the directive. That is the most important thing, because when homes are flooded and we need to evacuate people, we still will have more rains. People should comply. Some are adamant to evacuate from where they are. So we have been talking to them, telling them what they are supposed to do, so that we will be able to evacuate people when the need arises.
All right, and what about plans for relief items to support people who have been...
Yes, we are putting the report together today so that the regional will come in and we'll see what we will do to be able to bring in some mitigation measures to the people who are affected.
How soon can you come to the aid?
Come again.
How soon can you come to their aid?
Yeah, we have. Even the regional minister was there. Regional director, I am a metro director. Regional director was there. We have just put in summary report yesterday. Today we'll be completing the report so that we know the exact people who are affected. The numbers are huge, to be honest with you, but we will be able to make it up to them.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Danjuma, the Tamale Metropolitan NADMO Director, for speaking with us. We have Mr. Asamoah from GMET still rejoining us. We'll be coming to you, Mr. Asamoah, but I want us to go to the Northeast region and to Alhassan John Kweku, the NADMO Director. Good morning to you, Mr. Alhassan Kweku. What's the situation in your region?
Good morning, and let me say good morning to all of you for having me. This morning, this region is okay, apart from the a few incidents.
Hello, Alhassan Kweku. All right, so we have lost the Northeast Region NADMO Director, but let's come back to Accra and to GMET and to Mr. Asamoah. So, Mr. Asamoah, we've heard that you were telling us about the situation in the northern region, and you were indicating that they could be expecting, or they should be expecting, some more rain, probably as soon as tomorrow. We lost you at that point.
All right. So basically, we're expecting some more rains in the northern and the middle portions of the country around midweek into the weekend. So more areas in the north will have their rains from Wednesday into Thursday. Wednesday, basically, the start of the day, the start of the day on Wednesday will not have so much rains, but as we approach the latter parts of Wednesday into Thursday, that is when we're expecting the rain. So for midweek into the weekend, there's still a possibility of more rains coming to the northern portions. And not just the north areas in the transition parts, Oti, Bono, Ahafo regions are all expected to be experiencing some of this rainfall during the week, because the rains are gradually coming towards the south. So we'll start getting some of these rainfall in the southern parts of the country as well, not just the northern portions.
All right, so, and yesterday we also heard of the situation in Kumasi. Can you update us as to what is happening there? Or as you're saying, it's just the northern region rains, trickling down to the middle portions.
Okay, so basically what happened was, it was a very heavy rainstorm that affected the northern portions of the country. But then the southern fringes of the storm tracked over the northern portions of the Ashanti, parts of eastern, Oti, Bono regions. So what we had in the Ashanti region was not widespread conditions. Some areas had some minimal amounts of rainfall, but there were portions in the Ashanti region that had those heavy rainfalls, which caused the flooding in parts of the Ashanti region. Like I was saying earlier, we are transitioning from the break in the major rainy season to the minor rainy season. So we should be on the lookout for rainfall from this time as we enter into September. Because from September, October, and November, that is our minor rainy season in the south. And so the rains basically have started. And so we should be on the lookout for rainfall for those of us in southern Ghana. That's from the transition areas through the forest zone before it gets to the coastal parts.
All right, Mr. Sama, please hold on. I'll bring in Enimwa into the conversation at this point.
Hi, Joshua. Just a quick one. Have you noticed any changes in the rainfall patterns? And should we be concerned? I mean, the world has been talking about climate change and the effect that it has. Are we entering into times that we really should be concerned about? Have you noticed any changes in patterns?
Yes, I want to be very careful on this topic because there are a whole lot of confusion and then disagreements when it comes to climate change. People think it's climate variability that is happening. Others also think it's climate change that's already happening. But what I believe in, and this is a personal view and not that of the agency, what I know is that it's the climate variability that will lead to the changes in climate. And so if we are experiencing climate variabilities, then we are on a course to getting a change in the climate. We've seen a shift in rainfall pattern. I think if people have been observant, would have known that most times for the past 2-3 years, we've seen more rainfall in our minor rainy season than our major rainy season. So April, May, June does not really give us so much rainfall. By September, October, and November, we get lots of rainfall. And then it even extends into December. Last year in January, we were still getting rainfall when we're supposed to be in dry conditions. So there's been a shift in climate patterns, which is a result of climate change or climate variability, if you want to put it like that way.
Right. Okay. So what can we expect? I mean, over the next few months, and we're used to dealing with this at a particular time of the year, like you were saying, and there seems to be this shift. What are some of the things that we can begin to put into place so that when it rains like this, we're not hit so hard and life doesn't stop?
Okay. So most of these issues have to do with our own activities. That's human activities that goes on. For Accra, like this, our flooding events are basically because of what the actions that citizens have been taking, which are building on waterways, throwing lots of refuse in gutters and all that. So they are choked. And so when it rains, the rain will not have anywhere to go. You cannot stop a rain from flowing. It will definitely have to find a new path to charter. So once we block those waterways, then it will lead to these floodings. But one way we can also deal with some of these things is that most of the flooding events we have are as a result of runoff. For example, in Accra, the rains that cause flooding around Circle don't really fall at Circle. They fall around the inland areas of Greater Accra, and then the runoff will just come to Circle area and get those areas flooded. So we can build water retention points around the northern portions of Accra to contain the water as they come. So that will reduce the discharge rate of the water. So when the rain has subsided and then the discharge is now lower, then we can release the ones that we return over those areas. And then the flow will be a bit normal to ease flooding. So if we're able to build water retention points at some specific areas in some points of the country to reduce the discharge rates of the rains that come, then we'll be able to reduce flooding events in parts of the country. And we should also do our best in trying to live right and stop some of these activities that will cause some of these events to occur.
All right, Mr. Samoa, you're a good resource that we would need for the conversations we're having. So I want you to stay on. I want to go back to Mr. Alhassan John Kweku, the Northeast Region NADMO Director. We're having the conversation with him when we lost the connection. So, Mr. Alhassan, you were making the point about how the rains have impacted your region.
Yes, I was telling you that as for Northeast Region, apart from the depths that we have recorded, and then some of the lands that have been submerged in the water, and then the road networks, those communities that are cut off in the Mampurugu-Madure district, I can tell you that the situation is okay. And also NADMO team from the national headquarters, that's the Operation Tender Board. They are also in town. And NADMO has positioned officials at strategic points to deal with any situation that will arise as a result of the spillage. But as it is now, the spillage has not been done, but everything is being prepared to deal with any situation that will arise. We've also identified safe havens in all the 6 districts to house any potential displaced persons, and we've made available relief items and other logistics to cater for them. And like I said, yes, the rains, we are still in the midst of the rains, and then the education too is ongoing. So we are appealing to residents, especially those of our people who are living in those areas that are likely to be affected and the flood-prone areas, to be cautious about their own life, because it is important they take their lives very seriously so that we don't lose any life longer. For instance, in the Chelponi area, there was a situation where some 3 young ladies went to do washing in a stream. And then after they have done the washing, then they decided to swim. And then the water carried them away. And then in Bumpuru, for instance, a woman and the daughter went to farm. And then on their return, there was heavy downpour. Instead of them to stay at a particular place for the water to recede in the river before they cross, they attempted crossing and the water carried them away. So we are just appealing to residents. Water is not something that we can be playing with. So when it is raining, you get a place to stay so that when the water recedes, then you can go about your normal work. But for now, in this region, even though it is raining in Gambaga, the situation is under control. NADMO is positioning itself strategically to deal with any situation that will arrive as a result of this. But the impact, the spillage has not been done yet. And we are monitoring the situation. As and when we get any other information, then we'll share with you.
All right, thank you very much, Alassane John Kweku, the Northeast Region NADMO Director. Let's go to Martina Bugri, who is joining us via Zoom. Hello, Martina. So yesterday, the floods in Tamale, apparently you were caught up somewhere along the line. You tell us your story. Hello, Martina. All right, we'll come to Martina in a bit, but let's go to Ilyasu Tanko, who's the Northeast Regional Correspondent. So we've just had the NADMO Director telling us that things are pretty much under control in the Northeast region. What can you report, Ilyasu? Ilyasu, you'd have to unmute.
Yes, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
So yes, I'm saying that is like the NADMO director said, it's pretty much under control, except that in the Mamprogo-Mwaduru area, about 16 communities are cut off. Residents in those areas are not able to move from their communities, to move in and out of their communities. And a lot of roads have already damaged in the Janga area. The road there has completely destroyed. People there are not able to travel from their communities. The water levels, as we understand, also continue to rise, especially in the overseas districts of the region, the West Mamprose and then also the Mamprogo-Mwaduru district. And in some parts, even though the NADMO officials are undertaking sensitization exercise, in some parts of the area, farmers are still desperately trying to salvage their produce. And in doing so, they risk their lives. Some of them use old canoes to try to salvage their produce. So it's pretty much under control, but in some parts of the areas, farmers are really desperate because they are not able to reach their communities as well, and they are also struggling to get their produce out of the water.
Now, I'm interested in the bit about the farmers trying to get the produce out of the water with canoes. Essentially, they are on the flood waters with their canoes trying to harvest. Is that what is happening?
Yes, and last year, this caused a lot of casualties in the area. But I mean, these crops are yet to mature, but because of the water levels, most of their farms have already been taken over by the water. And so that is the only means that they are trying to get. I mean, some of them told me that they use all their savings, their life savings, to cultivate these farms. And so that is why they are risking their lives in order to get the produce, to get something to eat. I was in the Pasinke area. Some farmers were just there, a group of a farmer and a family were just there to get this unripe produce home so that they can get something to eat. And so it's a desperate situation. And like I said, the NADMO officials are doing their best to prevent the farmers going to the waterways. But it's been very difficult, especially in the overseas area where farmers say that that is the only thing that can sustain them and their families. And so despite the risk or the dangerous, the risk involved in this, they are risking their lives just because they want something to eat.
Now, Elias, when you say unripe produce, what sort of produce are we talking about?
We are talking about maize and groundnut as well, largely maize and groundnut. These are the produce that the farmers are desperately trying to salvage.
The groundnuts, I would want to believe that they're underground. How are they harvesting them?
Well, they are rushing, especially in the Kurgu area where we are having a campsite for the Kwalugo multi-purpose dam. I was there, and that particular village was entirely empty because farmers have to leave the community to go into their farm to get their produce. And some of the produce, especially the groundnut farm, has already taken over by waters. But there are others, the water level has not risen that much. And these are people that are struggling in their water trying to get their produce home.
I'll come to you in a bit to tell us the sort of help that people in your communities would need. But I'll go to Martina Bugri, who is now joining us on phone. Martina, what's the situation in Tamale now?
Except for the water that's running through the drains and the farmlands which are still submerged, most homes that were flooded yesterday around this time eventually are getting dried up. And so you can go through these homes. Except that most of the people had to relocate elsewhere last night to pass the night. And so the whole neighborhood is a bit quiet. You knock at the doors and nobody is around. I must say that it doesn't look too good this morning again because the clouds have started gathering. It looked same yesterday, and within some few hours, the whole town was underwater. It doesn't look too good this morning again.
Well, the Ghana Meteo is saying that you should expect some more rain. Mr. Sama was actually indicating that should be tomorrow. You talked about some farms that have been submerged. Do you also get the sense that farmers are going out there to try and salvage whatever they can?
It happened so suddenly yesterday, and so you don't have people on the farms yet. But I won't be surprised if they begin coming in this morning to want to look at what they can get out of the place. Yesterday, most of them were still on their way when it happened, and so they had to go back. I wouldn't be surprised this morning if they come in and want to salvage something, just so that they can have at least something to send home.
What is happening to the people who were displaced in yesterday's flood?
As we speak now, the neighborhood is quiet. Most of them did not sleep here in the neighborhood. They relocated elsewhere. And so their homes are locked. You just get to the gate and it's locked. You can peep through though and see that the water is gone, but the whole place is quiet and locked, except for an elderly couple who said they returned last night to clean their home. They are in here. Apart from them, the whole neighborhood, those who are affected are not here.
Do you have any idea where they would have gone to?
The elderly couple told me that most of them went into town to lodge with friends and families. And so they probably will be coming later in the day to see what they can take out. Remember, all their homes got flooded, and so they had eventually lost everything. Most of them, what they were wearing alone was what they could just run out. Like the couple I said, they said they were inside, and suddenly they saw the water open the gate, and then it started coming from the walls and through the gate. And so they had to run out with their kids and then get a means in town. And so it looks like most people around here will probably be coming later in the day to begin counting their loss.
The NADMO Metro Director was talking about some mosque and the rest being available. Do you know if there are any of these displaced people taking shelter?
I didn't get that, Ezra, if you could.
So the NADMO Metro Director was indicating that there are some mosques that are available to shelter people. Do you know if there are any of the victims sheltering there?
Well, I haven't seen any mosques around this area that is sheltering anybody. We have about 3 mosques on this stretch. And the first 2 mosques actually got flooded yesterday, and so there's no way people could have slept in that. But the last one, no one slept in it. Probably they are looking at probably in town where other places where they could offer shelter in this. But this neighborhood that the flooding occurred yesterday, I don't think people slept in the mosque.
All right, thank you very much, Martina Bugri, and I'm sure you continue to engage the people who have been displaced to find out what their needs are so we can get to, have the authorities support them as much as they can. And back to you, Eliasu Tanko, what are some of the things that the people, the displaced victims would be needing?
In the Mamprogo Maduri district, where I said 16 communities have been the NADMO officials are not able to assess the communities. So for now, we do not know what is happening. I've sent in a national response team. Operation Tenderboat is now full has been activated, and they unfortunately and they are not able to assess these communities. And so far, what kind of people need, what is their situation currently? And so the NADMO officials are hoping that the rain will recede to know their situation and to know the extent to them. But for now, they are cut off, and we do not know what is currently happening to them. But those that they have been able to assess, the Passington, the Kwa area, they are able to get the people to stop the dangerous adventure going into their produce. They have been able to.
All right, unfortunately, we seem to be losing Eliasu Tanko there from the northeast region. The quality of the connection is not the best. I don't know if we still have Mr. Asamoah from GMET still with us. All right, so Mr. Asamoah, it's great to still have you on. So you observed what's the kind of reports you're getting from across the country. You were talking about runoff water and how that impacts the flood or worsens the floods. But there's also people's homes that have been completely paved. And so no water gets, soaked into the ground. And often this also results in the floods. How much of this is a problem as well?
I think there's a combination of all these factors. You think yours is little, so it doesn't matter. But once it adds up to another thing that another person also seems to be little, those things will all combine and then give us a major impact. So for most places in Greater Accra and Ashanti region, we are seeing paved roads, and our areas are all paved. So the water is not really able to go into the ground. Kumasi, like this, when I was growing up, I saw that people were calling the place the Garden City of Ghana, because we saw lots of trees and like ornamental flowers and all those things in the Ashanti region. But now, if you go to the business districts in Ashanti region, it's all tiled and all those things. We don't see the trees and the flowers that we're seeing. So when it rains, it will not be able to go into the ground, and therefore it will lead to some of these flooding events. So we should all do our bit. We should not just say mine is little. Stop throwing refuse in gutters. We should stop paving almost everywhere, and then blocking waterways and all those things. Once we do our little bits, it will help the whole country as a whole.
All right, now, whilst we have you on the line, I'd want you to tell us what the forecast is like for today.
Right, so basically, we are expecting areas in the western sides of the northern sector, around Bole, Damango, to get some slight to moderate rains this morning, but will generally be cloudy across the country. We'll be getting some pockets of slight rain or drizzle in Greater Accra, central and western regions. The eastern Ashanti and western regions, western north regions will also experience some pockets of moderate rains later today. So we're not expecting the rains of the magnitude that happened yesterday, but we'll be getting some pockets of slight to moderate rains for most places in the country. But the intensity will be higher a bit over the middle portions than the northern and the coastal parts of the country. Just some isolated thunderstorms for areas in the northern parts later today. So not so much to worry about for today.
All right, thank you very much. Joshua Asamoah is with the Ghana Meteorological Agency. You're still watching the AM show. We're taking a break. We're hoping that we can get to speak with Kumasi to find out what the situation is there as well, because they also had some rain anymore.
Yeah, they did, and it wasn't great. So we'd love to find out how they are coping, what's happening there, and what we can expect for Kumasi in the next few days. It rained in Accra yesterday, but it wasn't too bad.
Like a drizzle.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. No, it did rain in some parts. Some parts didn't at all. But obviously we're okay, but not the same story in other places in Ghana. So when we come back, hopefully we'll speak to Kumasi and find out what's going on there. Remember, we also have our COVID conversation coming up, our inoculations, vaccinations happening. So we'll get onto that as well. And of course, we'd love to hear what were your highs and lows, or what have been your highs and lows so far for this year. So all of that coming up after the break.